Hello, everyone. I am still in Stockholm, Sweden, where it seems like I am the only person wearing a mask. And even with this terrible weather, it's a little cold, it started raining, people are still out, they are still shopping, they are still going to work. A lot of people are trying to work from home. The government has been recommending, not enforcing social distancing, but not everyone is doing it. And you can go to a restaurant, you can go to a bar. It's a different approach, it's a controversial approach, but officials here, health officials say it is sustainable because they're worried that we could be facing some sort of coronavirus threat for potentially years to come. So they didn't want to impose total lockdowns that they thought would collapse the economy, ruin the education system, and do too much damage to society.
Why is that approach controversial? I mean, you just heard that was an NBC correspondent describing what Sweden has done. We now have seen, because we can look at the spike in infections after a certain per capita level has been reached. And you've done this, you can do this with European countries, and you can do this lining up U.S. states, including the worst hit states. And Sweden, without doing, remember, the restaurants are not closed, bars are not closed, businesses are open, and people like to point out, oh, businesses are getting, they're not doing very well in Sweden. Though, yeah, no one's saying it's going to be perfect or a great economy, but it's better, isn't it? I mean, for those of you that operate a small business, if you were told that you could operate at lowered staffing, but you could make, 25, 30% of what you normally do, while the government figures out how it's going to still try to help businesses, and there's still a lot of things that can happen, wouldn't you take that opportunity? I mean, I know the answer is yes from people all across the country, but I do think that it's worth saying it out loud. But the objection to Sweden has been so fascinating to watch this, especially because we were told initially that they're going to learn a horrible lesson and Sweden is going to be a disaster. This is what we're going to be told. This is what we were led to believe all along, that Sweden was making a huge mistake because they weren't doing the all of the above lockdown approach. They didn't do it. And they didn't have a worse outcome than a lot of countries that did have an all of the above lockdown approach. And don't tell me this, but it got started sooner in other countries. Sweden has a large immigrant population, a lot of international flights. There's a lot of coming and going out of Sweden. There's not some reason to believe that these other European countries should have been so much worse off, and they were much worse off on a per capita basis, mind you. There's all these lazy comparisons that are made. Oh, the U.S. has the most cases of this compares it to European countries. All right, well, the U.S. also has 5 times the population of Italy. So why is it a worthwhile comparison to say we have more cases than Italy? Of course we do. Of course we have more cases. And also, how much testing have we done? And I want to talk more about the testing mantra soon. But for now, let's just understand that Sweden has been staying in what we would consider the phase 1, maybe, or phase 2 of a reopen here in America. And they have not had this terrible outcome that we were told they would. Once again, the experts, the consensus was incorrect. They can now talk about how, but Sweden, the society is healthier and they have less old people living with younger people. They can do all this other analysis. But at the end of the day, here's a country that is operating as though they're trying to go forward with life, even though there's this virus in the background. And their outcome in terms of deaths and infections was not markedly worse, and in fact was generally better than countries that said, everybody stay home, don't move, don't do anything. Why would we not take that as an important data point in this process? What explanation could there be that would explain why we should ignore that? Well, it's because there are a lot of people who think that they're very smart, who are also very scared and very worried about what would happen if governments were not treated like they were run by smarter, better people than the rest of us. And I'm talking about the media. I'm talking about the establishment, the power establishment in this country and many of our European counterparts. And they don't want to believe that it's possible. They don't want to believe that that there was any other approach here, that there was anything else that could have been done. and that maybe they were wrong. That's really what it comes down to. People really hate to be wrong. And this is one where I keep finding areas where I hope I'm wrong. You know, when I tell you that I think our vaccine, all these stories about new vaccines going into trials, okay, we'll find out if they work in about a year and a half. I hope I'm wrong about that. I hope that there are much better, that the vaccines are much more effective and they come out much sooner than I'm anticipating. But there's also a very decent possibility that we might be dealing with coronavirus on a seasonal basis the way we deal with flu. You get a flu vaccine, guess what? You can still get the flu. It doesn't mean it's not worth getting the vaccine, and people who are older and at higher risk particularly get the flu vaccine. Others, it's a little more of an ad hoc basis. That's a sustainable path, though. That's something that we can handle, we can deal with. It seems very possible, maybe even probable at this point, that coronavirus will be somewhat similar to that.
Hey, Team Buck, thank you so much for watching The First on YouTube. If you like this video, please click that little thumbs up button so then it will log as liked. And also, if you want to see more great content from The First, please click subscribe.